35 years old and I am a biopharmaceutical rep in Seattle, Washington. Welcome to my kitchen. I have just whipped some egg whites with some cream of tartar to oblivion, and you won't believe it, but I'm using it to make some delicious gluten-free bread. So I was diagnosed with celiac disease 4 years ago, and it completely changed the way that I approach my kitchen. I love science, and my chemistry background actually has come in quite handy because I truly believe there is a science behind cooking good gluten-free food. And being a person that loves to entertain her friends and family, I want to make sure that my food is delicious. Well, right now I'm just proofing my yeast, and we're going to give it a little bit of sugar to get going here. Wait for it to be nice and foamy. So now that my yeast is proofed, I am just adding the wet ingredients. And what's interesting about gluten-free cooking is that you do things a little bit differently. So now that I've added all the wet ingredients, I'm going to fold in the egg whites that I whipped earlier. So I'm getting all the wet ingredients together at once. So now my dough is ready, and you can see by the consistency here that it's much different than a gluten bread dough. It's quite wet. You can't work with it with your hands. It's way too sticky. In fact, my electric mixer did the work for me, beating on high speed at 2 minutes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour it into a gallon-sized plastic zip-top bag and allow it to rise. So now that the dough has risen about twice its original volume, I'm going to pipe it out onto a floured surface on parchment paper to make the shape of gluten-free French bread loaves. Okay, so now that I've transferred my baguettes to my oiled French loaf pan, I'm going to put it in the oven now for the second rise. I actually preheated the oven to 200 degrees and put some boiling water at the bottom of the oven, got it to the temperature, and then turned it off. And so we're going to leave it in the oven to let it double in size again for about 30 minutes or so. Alright, I have now baked my bread. It was at 375 for about 25 minutes, and I know it's going to be delicious because Carmen, my Rottweiler that I live with, always lets me know when the bread's ready, and she cannot resist my delicious gluten-free French baguettes. I meet people in my line of work that get diagnosed with gluten intolerance, and they're very discouraged about the lack of tasty food at their local grocery store, and they also find the condition to be socially isolating. There are restaurants these days that do have gluten-free menus, however, you always run the risk of cross-contamination. I want to be on the Food Network because I want to bring hope to people who have gluten intolerance, and I also want to raise awareness to the general public. I want to raise the bar on what a person can create with gluten-free cooking in their own home kitchen. I couldn't imagine not having delicious French bread with my homemade gluten-free lasagna. And I'll save that recipe for next time. Bon appetit.